Hey guys, Charlie Murphy here. Thank you for choosing my video. We're playing another session of 1-2-6 Max No Limit on Ignition. Our games are up and running, so we'll jump right in. Upper left-hand table, we raise blind on blind with Queen 9 suited, and we'll check range to the big blind on the Queen 10 deuce two-tone flop. Upper right-hand table, we'll raise first in from the button with Queen 3 suited. Can raise most, if not all, of our suited queens from the button. Upper left-hand table, he checks back. Turn is the ace of spades. I'm going to start jabbing at that pot small out of position with my second pair. Upper right-hand table, the small blind completes. We check our big blind in, and we're going to go ahead and stab for the minimum on the 10-9 deuce two-tone flop after he checks to us. Lower right-hand table, we'll get a min raise open from the button. We can go ahead and fold 6-3. I guess it's pretty close for that price, but a hand that low, that weak, it's not all that connected. It's okay to go ahead and fold. Upper right-hand table, he called them in. I'm going to go ahead and check back with my weak 10, just try to get this towards showdown as cheaply as possible now. Lower right-hand table will raise blind on blind with the Jack 5 suited. And we'll check range to the big blind on the Queen Jack 6 two-tone and start jabbing small on that 10 turn after he checks back the flop. I'm not going to try to turn that into a bluff. I think a 10 or worse I would turn into a bluff. Price is so good. I mean, almost nothing is still behind us, but I think it's just too good. Almost anything reasonable that would have called the flop is now ahead of us, but I think that price is too good to fold against a fish with second pair. Upper right-hand table will raise blind on blind with the 10-9 suited. Lower left-hand table will raise blind on blind. The standard open range here is probably about 45% of hands, somewhere in the mid-40s. We'll raise the pocket sevens. We'll raise any pocket pair, essentially. Lower left-hand table, we're going to switch that table off. We will raise our cutoff first in with about a 28% range, including our pocket eights. Get a small 3-bet from the small blind. You can call a lot more against that small 3-bet, only about a 3.5x. I'm going to call with essentially any pair and pretty much any suited connector, most of my suited aces. Probably not really calling with the offsuit stuff, still using ace-queen offsuit as a 4-bet bluff and folding the rest. But we'll call with the pocket eights here. Upper right-hand table, get a 3x open from the button. We're in the small blind. Going to repop him 14, 15%, including all of our suited aces. More of a size up on the flop, about a 2/3 bet. I think I've got to go ahead and call with pocket eights or better here at least once. Against that second turn barrel, we're going to have a little more than half of our stack in if we call on less than a 50% stack pot ratio on the river. I think the move here is just folding. You know, I can have picked up some various backdoor spade draws that can call. I can have all the sets. I can have 5-6. I can have Jack X. I could probably have pocket queens as well there too. I can just go ahead and fold everything worse than those hands though that I talked about. Blind down blind against the 3x open. We'll defend fairly wide, but not a hand as weak as 7-3 offsuit. Small blind raises 2.5x. We're going to 3-bet from our small blind pretty aggressively, about 15% against that sizing, including a few offsuit broadways like ace-jack plus king-queen. Lower right-hand table, we're going to go ahead and start stabbing at this pot after everyone checked back the flop. We do block the underfools, really only worried about Queen X coming along. Or I guess some mid pairs could be in some of those limp ranges as well. Lower right-hand table, we'll raise first in from the cutoff with about a 28% range, including our pocket tens. A short suspected recreational player calls from the small blind. We get a king 8-7 monotone flop. We do have the relevant suit in our hands with the 10 of diamonds. He checks, so we'll go ahead and range bet him small. At least two of these tables look very promising with recreational players all over the place. See if we can get two more to match them at some point and really have some very juicy games going. Upper left-hand table will raise middle position with Jack-9 suited, part of about a 21% raise first in range, and lower right-hand table will raise first in from the cutoff with about 28% of our hands, including pocket threes. Upper left-hand table get calls all over the place, two in position and the small blind as well. We get a king 6-6 rainbow flop. We'll be checking our range with all these players out there in that pot. Had we got the opportunity, given the small blind leads into us, I'd be continuing really only, especially for that sizing multi-way. That sizing is too large to be using multi-way with all these players out there, especially on a board so dry. I would be continuing with my 6x, quad sixes and kings full, of course. In my better kings, I think I would even fold some king x. I'd continue with ace king, king queen, king jack. Run king 10, king 9 starts getting close. I'd continue with pocket aces as well. But really nothing in the way of draws to have out there. No need to float multi-way against that bet sizing with backdoor draws. I think I'd be continuing with a call for my entire continue range as well. Lower right-hand table, blind on blind, he limped to us and checked to us on the flop. We go ahead and stab with our jack 6 on ace queen 4 rainbow. He check calls, then leads the turn. We have no piece, so we'll just go ahead and fold. Suspected recreational player here as he's not reloading, playing less than 100 blinds deep. Lower left-hand table, the cutoff raises first in for 2.5x. We're going to 3-bet with about a 13% range here, including all of our suited broadways, some suited wheel aces, maybe all my suited 9x. Pocket 7s are better, ace-jack plus king-queen. A range like that should get us about where we want to be, and that's with no cold calls. That's with just 3-betting or folding. Out of position player defends the 3-bet. We get a jack 7-6 rainbow flop. We'll go ahead and range bet small. Upper right-hand table, blind on blind, we'll raise all of our suited kings like king 5 suited. You get called. Turn is a 5 of clubs. We don't have a backdoor flush. We didn't have the backdoor flush draw on the flop. I don't really have too much 8x. I do have some 9x and some flush draws I can be barreling as bluffs. So in that respect, I don't think I need to be using ace queen to bluff here. On some cards, especially, well, aces or queens, first of all, give me top pair, but kings and tens give me gut shots. I think I'd be blasting on those, particularly the king, and probably looking to triple off. That 5 comes coordinates with those straight draws out there. I don't have nearly as much, equity in the hand either. I just have the overcards, so I'm going to check back that turn. River's that ace of clubs. I'm going to go ahead and stab at it. I'd be stabbing with all my air here that didn't blast the turn, or pretty much all of it, without showdown value. Looking to try to get some value from my rivered queen. Lower right hand table rather, we raise the middle position first in with ace-9 suited. A recreational player calls from the big blind and leads into us on jack-9 for rainbow. We've got second pair top kicker nut flush draw. We're of course going to be continuing versus that. Turn is a really nice card for us. The 5 of diamonds giving us the backdoor flush draw. He continues betting into us, but betting into us small, bets 4 and 2-11. That's a very easy call with second pair top kicker and the nut flush draw. River we brick out is the deuce. He bets 4 into 18. I'm sure that's going to be an easy call for that size. Let me think about it for a minute and think about just what the triple donk signifies from a fish. And the triple donk is actually pretty neutral. But that small size is just so heavily overbluffed that we're just going to go ahead and call that down. And he had jack-9, so he actually was incredibly strong and should have tried to get some more value out of that if he's going to take a lead line. But against that small bet, of course, it's a trivial river call. Good thing we didn't hit our third 9 for trips, as we would have lost the rest of, not our stack, but his stack in that spot, thinking there's no way our trip 9s aren't good. Upper left-hand table will raise ace-jack first in from the cutoff, about a 28% raise first in range in that spot. In the ace-queen hand, we got hero called by pocket 8s on the river. Just put us on having too many bluffs, which, to be fair, might not be incorrect. Upper right-hand table, again, we're very multi-way, 9-9-7 rainbow. We've got ace-jack high we're getting led into. Then with the call, we can just get out of the way on a hand like this. Got a really large open on the from the cutoff on the lower left-hand table. I don't really know that I want to really have any flats against that 4x plus size, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and fold. Against a 3.5x 20% raise first in, I will defend for a call with a couple of offsuit broadways like king, queen, ace, jack. Given that he's a significantly larger size than that, a lot more of my calls are supposed to drop out. I think this actually is supposed to be a fold against that sizing. I haven't really looked at sizings larger than, say, 3.5x just because you see them so rarely in the wild, and I really treat those largely just like 3-better fold situations once the sizing starts getting that big. Lower left-hand table, we raise blind on blind with king-queen offsuit and check range to the big blind on the ace-queen-7 two-tone flop. Turn is the offsuit king. We're going to go ahead and start jabbing at that pot small. Got second and third pair. If we get called, we're going to continue betting, trying to get some value from ace-x, a king-x, a queen-x type hand. And we can have all kinds of bluff misdraws that have to follow through here, so we're going to keep betting with those too. I think king-queen's a very easy value bet in that spot. Upper left-hand table, got a couple recreational players limping. We'll go ahead and check in with our king 10. That's pretty close between an isolate and a check-in. It could go either way. I tend to err on the side of caution with that hand and check it in. But if you raise it in that situation, I'm sure it's not a mistake, entirely justifiable. We check range on the king 9 deuce flop. It checks through, comes back to us now on the turn with the 6, putting the backdoor flush draw out there. We're going to go ahead and bet out now with our top pair. Using a small sizing because of the multi-way nature of the board. Both players quickly call. We're multi-way on the river, and I'm again going to bet small with my top pair, looking to get called by all kinds of stuff. Queen X, 9X, probably even 6X. We get raised. Pretty appropriate sized raise. He raises us from 2 to 8. Got to call 6 into 16. It's about a 60% bet on the river. In general, I think the raises from these wrecks are kind of under-bluffed. However, it's not that large a size. Don't have to be good that often. We do block the obvious draw that hit. I'm actually going to go ahead and hero call this. If he raises larger, I think he can talk me into a fold there. I don't have a lot of data really on river raises, at least not in a very granular, fine way like I would like to have. So I've got to go with some instinct on how these guys tend to play. Lower left-hand table, we raise queen 3 suited on the button. Small blind calls us. We get a 4-3 deuce two-tone flop, so we'll go ahead and bet it small. He quickly calls us. Turn is an 8, offsuit ace. I think I want to be using overbet or check sizing at this point. In a hand like queen 3 is definitely just going to the check line. The overbets, they are going to be 5x heart draws, and probably ace 8 or king 8 or better as far as one pair hands go. We'll check back to queen 3. River is that 5 of hearts. I'm going to take my showdown here. Upper right-hand table, get a button min raise. A small blind pops him up to 8. We're going to go ahead and put in a cold 4-bet with our pocket aces. We'll be stacking off 10s plus ace-king in this pretty wide formation. Probably also 3-betting like ace-queen, suited combos of ace-10 plus, king-10 plus, queen-jack, and pocket 9s to fold if we get jammed on. Lower left-hand table, get a 3x open for middle position. We go ahead and 3-bet with our king-10 suited. We get jammed by initial raiser with jacks. We snap off with our aces. And the aces hold up. We are good. We pick up a stack. Got about a 9% 3-bet range in that spot there. Lower left-hand table against middle position 3x. Lower left-hand table from our middle position, we'll raise first in with king-jack. Lower right-hand table, table full of Rex, limper on the button, small blind completes. We'll check in with our 7-5 suited. Upper right-hand table, we'll raise first in with all our suited kings on the button. Lower left-hand table, our middle position open gets 3-bet from the small blind, but for a small size. Against the more appropriate size, we get pretty snug here. Against that small size, though, we can continue pretty much all of our pocket pairs, a lot of suited connectors, even a couple of suited gappers. And, of course, the suited Broadways are good to call against that size. So we'll continue and play a flop. He checks to us. We've got some backdoor draws here. I think it's actually going to be worth stabbing with these and put some of his pocket pairs that are scared of that board, like pocket queens, pocket tens, into a bad spot right off the bat. Turn is the 10. I'm going to go ahead and check back this particular gut shot. If I had If I had the hearts, I had the combo draw, I'd be blasting those. I'd be continue blasting my heart draws. I'm going to check back my turn gunshots so that don't have the flush draw to go with. River is the 2 of hearts, putting a 3 flush and a 4 straight out there. I've got king high, so I am going to be going ahead and bluffing at this pot if he gives me the opportunity. He bets into me for a little over half pot, about 60% of pot, and just with king high, no relevant blockers, I'm just going to go ahead and fold. Somewhat suspicious that that line is strong. I don't think a ton of flush draws really play that way, and I don't think he has very much 4x in his preflop range. I guess he could have some ace-4 suited that would play that way, so it's not entirely out of the question. He has some 4x, but he shouldn't have a whole lot. If I had some relevant blockers in my hand, I may think about turning this hand into a bluff, but without any, I'm just going to go ahead and fold, especially without more information on what that line really means from that guy. Upper right-hand table will raise blind on blind with ace-4. Upper left-hand table will raise middle position with ace-jack suited. We get min raise blind on blind by a short stack. I think I have to call against the min raise, but I don't like this situation already with such a marginal hand. Upper left-hand table, we flop top 2, ace-jack-8. We'll check range to the 2 in-position players. It checks through, and the turn is the 8 of spades. We're going to go ahead and start jabbing at this pot small now with our top 2. Not the best card for us as our 2 pair is counterfeited. Now any 8x is a straight against us. Both players called. Flush closing river. I think I want to just go ahead and bet small to try to get called by other ace-x, so I'll go ahead and put in about a 30-35% bet. Against a raise, I can fold as 8x and spades are very credibly in these players' ranges. However, I do squeeze some value out with my hand. It started out looking lovely, and the board just didn't play nicely as the turn and river card came. We ended up getting hero called by jack-7 offsuit. So that small bet did let us get called there, whereas a larger bet would probably have forced a hand like that out. Lower right-hand table will raise deuces from middle position, probably a little looser than a solver would advocate for, but I like having these pocket pairs in my range to have sets all over the place. Upper right-hand table, we fold queen 5 suited in the cutoff, probably raising queen 6 or better. Against that 3-bet, especially from a player who's a bit shorter, we can just go ahead and fold. This upper left-hand table is just phenomenal. Just every player limping along every single hand. Playing way too many hands on top of that. The only player who might not be completely horrid is the guy to my immediate right, and even he's playing too many cold calls and some limps. Upper left-hand table, we get a 3x open from a guy playing 50 blinds deep. Normally I wouldn't be raising 10s to get him in here, but because he's so short, I'm punished a lot less harshly when I get it in against jacks plus. As such, I think I'm going to go ahead and raise this up to get this in. Probably about a 50-50 ratio, maybe even a bit less than that of value to bluffs. Probably have like ace-queen, ace-10 suited plus, king-jack suited plus in this 3-bet range as well pre-flop. I'm planning to stack off with 10s plus ace-king. Ace-queen is close. Ace-queen should probably be a fold in those spots if I get jammed on, but it is a bit closer. Upper right-hand table will raise middle position with about 21% of hands, including our pocket pairs like pocket tens. Get called by the small blind. I need king 5-5 rainbow flop. He checks to us, so we'll go ahead and range bet it small. We get called. Turn is the 9 of spades. I'd be using a very polarized strategy here. I'd be betting my 5x. I think that's really just ace 5. I think I would check back my quad 5s and my kings full. I'd keep blasting with my 9s full. Yeah, so I really don't have the super strong hands here because I really only have ace 5 as my trip 5s. I guess this could be a board where I use a smaller size because I'm just going to have a lot of king x that wants to bet instead. I'm not sure about that. I could go either way on this one as a result. Either way, I'm going to check back the pocket tens, whether I'm using a large size or a small size there. I think I can bluff catch this river for the most part, or even try to get some value. He bets 7 into me. And he could have some king x in his range, like king queen that calls pre-flop. Could also have some mid pairs or some ace high that he's turned into a bluff after I check through. This size is a little bit on the overbluff side. Texture is not too relevant as far as what's going on here. I think this is a call. Not going to be good all the time, but should be good a decent bit. Let me pick off a bet against pocket threes, and I'm not sure if he's value betting or bluffing there. He might be just doing that, trying to get hero called by ace high. I'm really not sure. Upper left-hand table will raise the button first in with queen 3 suited. Get called by a recreational player in the small blind who checks to us then on the ace 8-7 two-tone flop. We do have the second nut flush draw. Go ahead and range bet small, and he quickly folds. Upper right-hand table, we raise middle position with about a 21% range, including Queen Jack suited. Upper right-hand table, now under the gun, raise about an 18% range, including King Queen suited. Recreational player calls out of the small blind. Waiting on the big blind to make his decision. Upper left-hand table, it's a shame we can't pick up a hand because it's just a limp fest hand after hand over there. Upper right-hand table, the big blind comes along as well. We get a 10-7-8 rainbow flop. Won't be range betting with the two players out there. I'll go ahead and check back King Queen if given the opportunity. We do have some backdoor draws and overcards here, so we're not dead in the water yet. Turn is a 7, pairing up the low card on the flop, putting trips out there. Small blind min bets us. I think we'll call that and just try to hit our king or our queen. Yeah, without getting a raise in front of us, that's what we'll do. River is the 6. I can turn that card into a bluff as well if nobody else bets. Small blind goes ahead and bets 2. If the big blind folds out, I think I can turn this into a bluff raise. Really, even if he flats, I think he should be raising his full houses or his 9x type combos there. When he raises, I'll get out of the way, but I was planning to go in and put a pretty healthy sized raise on this guy. Wouldn't have worked as he had 9x, but the logic was that small bet does not denote strength necessarily. Upper left-hand table, we'll raise our button with Queen Jack. One of the wrecks comes along from the small blind. The big blind comes along as well. We get led into on the 10-9-8 two-tone flop. We have the nuts straight. I'm going to go ahead and put in a raise against this, try to just hang this guy right immediately, get money in while our hand is good before that board gets too scary. I really can't be, with my sets and other strong hands, I'm mostly raising those as well. It's a weird spot multi-way with fish getting led into. I'm not completely sure how to approach this, but given that I've got the nuts and I'm against a fish that's showing some strength by betting, they want to start getting some money in there right off the bat. Small blind is thinking about it. He folds. And the big blind folds as well. I think it's smart just try to get some money in that pot right away, though, when you've got the nuts and the fish are leading into you. Lower left-hand table will raise middle position with about a 21% range, including ace-jack suited. Get called in position by a recreational player. Both blinds come along as call as well. So we're playing another multi-way pot against some Rex. On the 9-8-4 two-tone flopper to go ahead and check range to the in-position player. We do have 2 overcards and the nut flush draw, so this hand is pretty promising at the moment. In-position player goes ahead and stabs for half pot. Everyone else is coming along. I could check raise here. However, I think I'm content to just take this great price and try to hit the nut flush and have all these other guys in there with the chance to pay me off. Turn is the jack, giving us top pair, top kicker to go with the nut flush draw. Upper right-hand table against the cutoff min raise, we're going to go ahead and put in a 3-bet from our big blind with our queen-jack suited. The turn checks around. The river's a 4, board pairing 4. I'm going to go ahead and put in a small bet with my top pair, top kicker, trying to get some value. Upper right-hand table, we get called by the in-position player on the ace-10 deuce two-tone flop. We're going to go ahead and range bet. We do have the gut shot and the flush draw. He quickly calls us. Turn is a 9, giving us now the open-ended straight draw. I'll probably bet about 24 into this. I'll go about 23, 24. You can barrel off on the river if you miss, but the triple barrel line where they're in position is one spot where the river bluff's a little bit more marginal. So if you want to go ahead and pump the brakes and not follow through on some bluffs in a few spots, that would be a line where it's very reasonable to do so. He quickly folds, though. River, I'm just going to make a stab bluff there, try to pick up that pot with 6 high and get quickly raised. Limps all around on the lower left-hand table. We'll complete our small blind with ace-6, looking to flop something very, very strong and start playing for a lot of money or to otherwise get out of the way. Upper left-hand table, a rec limps under the gun. We'll go ahead and complete the small blind with 9-6. And we'll check range there on the queen 3-8 two-tone. And we'll check fold with 9 high, backdoor heart draw. And now on this lower left-hand table, the big blind pops it up from 1 to 2 with all those limpers. You get a call there. One of the limpers back raises to 10. A second limper calls the 10. I'm just going to get out of the way and watch in earnest with what kind of disaster is about to unfold before our eyes here. Be nice to pick up some hands, as I am at some excellent tables. The initial raiser after he makes it 2, he then folds, and the guy that limped and called 2, now he calls the 10 as well. Player that popped it up to 10 goes ahead and jams his last 15 blinds in. About a half pot bet. He's got 10-9 offsuit, gets called down by pocket deuces, and the pocket deuces hold up. What a hand. I'm going to rotate out the upper right-hand table just because, well, there is one player that seems to be kind of a fish. Well, actually, he's playing, we've got a good position on him. He's fishy and he's deep, so we're at least 100 blinds deep, so we're going to stick around. The player to my left is probably weak as well. He doesn't have particularly loose pre-flop stats, but he's playing short stacked. I think I'll keep this table just because I've got good position on a guy who's already a confirmed recreational type. Was tempted to move out just because all these tables are so promising right now. I thought maybe I could find an even better one, but I think we've got a pretty good one right here at the same point in time. And we raise our under the gun. Or I'm sorry, no, we're not under the gun. We're in the big blind. We get a 2.5x open from the cutoff. We can go ahead and 3-bet that about 10%, including all of our suited broadways, suited 9x, pocket 8s are better, ace queen plus, maybe ace 5 suited. Lower right-hand table, our 2.5x gets popped up to 5 by a short stack button, and then the big blind overcalls. We're going to go ahead and just flat that and take a flop. Upper right-hand table, go ahead and range bet small on the 7-4 deuce two-tone flop. We do have the nut flush drawn 2 overcards. Turn completed the flush. We're going to go ahead and keep betting. We're going to use a small bet here on that flush closing turn. Bet about a third of the pot. We get called. River is the 3, puts a 4 straight out there. We're going to go ahead and sort of overbet jam here with our ace high flush. Get quickly snapped off, probably against another flush. Yeah, he had the 8-9 of diamonds, so that's just kind of a cooler kind of a setup. Now we flopped the overpair here. He goes ahead and bets 2/3. I'm going to check call this one time and evaluate. Turn is a gin card for us, that offsuit 9 giving us top set. Feel very good about this hand now. He continues betting. He bets half pot. He's got about a half pot left behind him. We're just going to go ahead and jam this all in. Get called down by all his overpairs. I think his draws have to call off as well. I only am punished if he has some kind of total air he might keep bluffing with. He has jacks. He has no choice but to call off there, and we pick up his stack. Middle position, lower right-hand table. Cutoff rather. We'll raise first in with the 5s. Upper left-hand table, we'll raise jack 6 suited on the button. Upper left-hand table, big blind calls us. Got a queen 8-4 two-tone flop. We'll go ahead and range bet small. We do have the flush draw. Upper right-hand table, we'll raise the button first in with ace 5. Lower right-hand table, we're just going to fold against that lead in the call. We've got an underpair to the board. Upper left-hand table is the ace of spades, putting a backdoor flush draw out there as well. We're going to be using overbet or check sizings. Here with the jack-high flush draw, I'm content to go ahead and overbet this. And he quickly folds out his second or third pair, probably 8x or 4x type hand. Lower right-hand table, get a 2.5x open for middle position. We're on the button. I'll three-way that with some of my wheel aces, but not all. I'll fold the ace-deuce. I'd probably three-bet ace-5, ace-4, fold ace-3, ace-deuce. Upper right-hand table, raise under the gun about an 18% range with king-10 suited, and check range to the in-position short stack that calls us on queen-queen deuce rainbow. Upper left-hand table, we raise king-7 suited first in for middle position, and everybody folds. Against that pot-sized bet, we can just go ahead and fold this. No reason to get involved. You only have about a pot-sized bet left as well if we are to call that, so we can be pretty snug. King-high backdoor flush draw, we just don't need to call. Smaller bets are more interesting as we do have removal to the trip queens. We've got overcards, we've got backdoor straight draws, backdoor flush draws, and we need to be continuing a much larger portion of our range against a small bet. Against that pot-sized bet, I think it's a pretty trivial fold. Upper right-hand table, get a 2.5x open for middle position. A recreational player calls him in position from the cutoff. We're in the small blind with pocket jacks. We're going to go ahead and three-bet an 8 or 9% linear range here. Probably 8s plus suited broadways, ace-queen plus ace-5, ace-4 suited, something like that. Really would like to squeeze this player out and play against the recreational player that will probably call with too many hands again. The first part of my plan has come to fruition. When the raising player folds, and both players are squeezed out. Lower left-hand table, recreational player limps. Another short stack player limps behind on the button. The small blind completes. We're going to go ahead and isolate these players up out of the blind with something like 8s plus suited broadways, suited 9s, ace-queen plus, king-jack plus. Ace-king, of course, very clearly a kind of hand we want to isolate with here. So we pop them up large, 150% of pot, kick that up to about 7. We get jammed over the top by the limper. This is a very easy call with ace-king. We're against jacks, so it's actually a fairly strong hand for him to have there. Really should have just raised it initially after the limper, but we end up racing with him instead, and we're running good right now, so we win the race. Lower left-hand table, blind on blind, we'll raise the 6-5 suited. And check range to the big blind, then king jack 3. Upper left-hand table will raise middle position with something like a 28% or 21% range, including a lot of our suited kings, maybe kings 5 or better. Lower left-hand table will start jabbing small on that turn after he checks back the flop. Turn is that jack that pairs the board. He, however, min raises us back, and we have nothing going for the hand, so we'll just go ahead and pitch it. Upper right-hand table will raise middle position first in about 21%, including pocket jacks. Lower left-hand table, the cutoff will raise first in about 28%, including almost all of our suited kings. Maybe fold a couple of them. Blind down blind, lower left-hand table, we can raise Jack 4 suited. It's right on the cusp, but we'll go ahead and raise it, and we'll check range to the in-position player on the Jack 5-4 two-tone board. We'll now go ahead and start jabbing that I'm small when he checks back the flop. Turn is the 10 of spades, putting the backdoor flush draw out there. He calls us. River is not the best river for us. The ace, it completes king-queen for the Broadway straight. Now a various ace-x are now two pairs. That said, my Jack 4 two pair, my second and fifth pair is too strong to check. We're going to go ahead and try to get some value from that. We're just not going to use a crazy sizing on that board. We'll use a more standard sizing. Upper left-hand table will raise first in from the cutoff with pocket tens, part of about 28% raise first in range. Recreational player in the small blind calls us. Big blind folds out. We get an ace-king-9 two-tone flop, and we'll go ahead and range bet small after he checks to us, and he quickly folds. Upper right-hand table will raise first in from the cutoff with 6-5 suited. Part of about 28% raise first in range there. Pocket pairs, 5-4 suited plus. Suited broadways, suited 9, suited 8, suited 7s, any ace-x, most king-x suited, maybe queen-6 suited. Offsuit broadways, and maybe ace-9 offsuit as well, something like that. Upper right-hand table, ace-10-3 two-tone flop. The big blinds checks to us. We'll go ahead and range bet small. Lower left-hand table, we get a limper. We'll check in from our big blind with Jack-9, and we'll check range to him. Turn is the Jack of diamonds in the upper right-hand table. I could have various flush draws. I can have Queen X or King X, Queen 9. I could even have hands like 9-8 for an open-ender, although that one's probably a little weak and more akin to a gut shot, honestly, as the Queen puts a 4 straight out there, so it's not truly all that strong a hand. I can have all the sets. I can have Ace-Jack, Ace-10. I can have Ace-3 suited. I can have King-Queen. I'm going to be using a lot of overbets here. Probably overbet the one pair hands, ace-king, ace-queen as well, and check back everything else. I'll check back that 5 to the river, or the 6-5 to the river, rather. I paired my 5, but it's awful weak and short on value. It's fourth pair. I think I'd better off turning this hand into a bluff, try to fold out some 10x or something like that, or some jack-x like jack-queen that made a pair. Ace-x won't fold. I just don't think I'm good very often here, though, by checking down. I think I actually get a decent number of folds from some of those marginal pairs. I do have all kinds of ace-x in my range that checks back the turn and is getting value here on the river. So Jack-x and 10x have real decisions here, to be perfectly honest, because I do have some better hands that are value betting. And we take it down, and I'm pretty comfortable he folded a better hand there against us, especially given that he thought about it for a little while first. Lower right-hand table, blind down blind. The blind limps, small blind limps. We'll pop them up from the big blind with queen 10. Upper left-hand table will raise the cutoff about a 28% raise first in range, including our pocket aces. And the Rick folds for once. He's playing every hand with us. Then against aces, he gets out of the way. Upper right-hand table, we'll raise first in from the button with the mid 40% range, including most of our offsuit aces. Probably raise ace-4 and better, fold ace-3, ace-deuce. Similar scenario on the lower right-hand table, the exception being the small blind is dead. It will still raise with more or less the same raise first in range and raise our ace-4 offsuit. Lower right-hand table, I raise almost all my suited queens on the button. I tend to fold queen deuce, however, though. Pretty close. You could raise it and I wouldn't have a problem with it. Upper right-hand table appears to be breaking, and the fish seem to have left. So we're going to shuffle that table out after our next orbit. Lower left-hand table also, or lower right-hand table rather, also seems to be pretty marginal. Lower left-hand table still looks promising. One guy we've got tagged playing 72-4. This guy was on a short stack. And the upper left-hand table still has some of those wrecks at it too. Shit. Upper left-hand table, we raise sixes under the gun, part of about an 18% raise first in frequency. We're going to check range on the Queen 8-4 rainbow flop to the recreational player. He bets 4 into 6. He's been pretty passive also. I think I can go ahead and fold that. I'd call with any 8x or better, I think, in that spot, and I'd call with my various gut shot draws. Jack 10, 10-9. I think I would check raise my middle and bottom set. Probably check call with top set just because I've got that board so locked down. Could mix in a few check raise bluffs as well. I don't think I'm really, although against that size, against a recreational player who's been passive, I'm probably not really going to be bluffing very much of anything. I'd probably just exploitively check raise my bottom 2 sets, bottom and middle set. I don't think I'd even bother mixing any kind of gut shots or, blockers to queen with backdoor flush draw type stuff. Those would be the kind of combos you would use in a spot where you want to have check raise bluffs. But given that he's a fish, given that he's pretty passive, 18% aggression frequency, and given that he's using a larger size, all those things tell me the check raises are not going to be folded to all that much. So I'm not going to really be check raising him light. I'm just going to be check raising him with my big hands. We'll give this table an orbit or two. It doesn't look very promising with everybody playing right around 100 blinds, 100 blinds plus. But everything else I've been trying to pop up has not worked, so we'll give that one a whirl. Do have one player that's limped on this table already. That's a good sign. Lower left-hand table, we'll raise the button first in with 8-5 suited. It's right on the fringes of the kind of hands I'd be opening. I wouldn't really open 9-5 or 8-4 or 7-4 suited. But those hands are all pretty close. Raise jacks on the button, the lower right-hand table. And the cutoff on the lower right-hand table will raise the ace-jack, part of about a 28% range. Upper right-hand table, button limps. We'll check in the big blind with pocket deuces and check range on the king 8-3 two-tone flop. He checks back. Turn is the jack of spades, or jack of clubs rather, that closes the flush. We'll go ahead and start jabbing at that pot small. Lower right-hand table, recreational player leads into us on the 10-8-4 two-tone flop. We have ace-jack with the nut flush backdoor draw with the ace of spades in our hand. I'm going to go ahead and float against that half-pot lead with overcards and various backdoor draws in my range. He continues blasting again for half pot, this time on the turn and offsuit 3. Having not picked up any equity, I will go ahead and fold this time. Could continue with my real draws, open and straight draws, flush draws for sure. I'd probably continue with all my 8x type hands and better as well against that. I think I'll just go ahead and fold the ace-jack. It's probably pretty close, probably closer than I'm giving it credit for being. Upper right-hand table, cut off limps. We complete our small blind with Jack-7 suited. And then we check our range on the Ace-Queen-6 two-tone flop. And we'll fold our Jack-high, no draws, against that pot-size bet, over bet from the limper. Middle position limps, we'll isolate him from the button with something like our cutoff raise first in range, mid to upper 20%, including our pocket tens. Blinds fold out, limper calls. We get a pretty nice flop for our hand, 7-7-6 rainbow. He checks, we'll go ahead and range bet small. He calls. Turn is the 9. Interesting card. That we now have a straight draw and we block the straights. A spot like this, I want to be betting probably my 9's full, my 6's full. Some of it's like probably maybe my 7-6. I guess that could go either way. 7-6 or 7-9 could either be bets or traps. I'd probably keep betting those. I think I would trap with my quad 7s. I could have 8x or 10x as some bluff draws. And I've got a lot of one pair hands, over pair hands that want to keep betting. I think I want to use the smaller size here against this guy, especially with a hand like pocket tens or other overpairs, just to make it easy for him to call with 6x, 9x, and get a third straight of value on the river. Some merit to overbetting as well, but I think I want to use the smaller size here, just I don't want to narrow his range too much to just trips with an overbet. Lower left-hand table, the button raises 2.5x. We're in the small blind, and we can re-steal with essentially all of our suited aces. We get re-raised here on the turn. That is almost always super strong, especially from a recreational player. I'm going to actually go ahead. Well, it's pretty small. I'm going to go ahead and call and evaluate the river. We're going to go ahead and range bet on the 8-6-3 rainbow flop after 3-betting in the lower left-hand table. I'd be more inclined to fold jacks or queens than tens against that check raise because I'd block the straights and have ouch to the straight myself. Now he bets half pot. Let's see what the check raise bet line means though. The check call, check raise bet line. That is very heavily underbluffed by recreational players. He's been pretty aggressive, though. I think this is actually fairly close. I'm going to call it. And so he made 9s full on the turn. He played it reasonably well. Limper, we're going to go ahead and isolate him again, this time with ace-queen suited. Lower left-hand table will follow up with the range bet on that King 9-6 two-tone flop. Interesting turn to keep barreling. We've got a gut shot to the nut straight. We've got a heart blocker. I think I want to go ahead and put this into a betting line, keep betting with this particular hand. Use a half pot size on that flush closing turn. Upper left-hand table will 3-bet the 3x open from the button with our king-queen suited. We'll go ahead and range bet small in the upper right-hand table with queen 10. Upper right-hand table, I think I need to follow through here. I don't have the ace of hearts in my range, so I'm not going to use an overbet. I'll just use the smaller size. Continue barreling, put him in a kind of a tough spot with queen x, 9x. King x probably can't fold, but some stuff can. We get led into on this Jack 7-3-4 backdoor flush draw turn by the rec. We have no real equity, so we'll just go ahead and fold. If the rec bet's larger in that hand where I've got the pocket tens, I can find a fold. That half pot sizing, even though that check raise turn line tends to be strong, that half pot river sizing does not tend to be strong, especially from fish. He's been aggressive. Could be doing some weird things. I don't think I'm good there a lot, but I think it's probably well marginal. I think it's okay to call in that spot. If he sizes up, though, I can get out of the way. Lower left-hand table, we're going to raise the cutoff first in with queen 8 suited. Short stack recreational player calls out of the small blind. We get a queen 6-7 two-tone flop. We'll go ahead and range bet small. Turn is the 9 of diamonds. We've got top pair on the open-ended straight draw. I think that's a reasonable top pair to keep betting. So I'm going to go ahead and use the small bet on that flush closing turn. And the river, I think I can probably check back. Yeah, I mean, I guess in theory we could maybe get called by some worse hands. He's kind of fishy, so it's possible he could call with a hand like 7-8, 8-9. I'm going to go ahead and try to get some value, knowing I might be value cutting myself some of the time. Upper right-hand table, we raised out of the big blind against that limper. And then we put in a small range bet on the king 10-5 two-tone. We're going to go ahead and start checking our second pair now. And he bets half pot. We'll go ahead and call, and we'll check to him again on the river. And he checked back his king-jack. He really should have went for some more value there. I was going to be mostly calling down on that run out against him. Upper left-hand table will raise the pocket fours from under the gun, part of about a 18% raise first in range. Check range the in position player on the king, king, 8 two-tone flop. He quickly checks back. Turn is a flush closing queen. We'll go ahead and start jabbing small. We do have the relevant flush suit in our hand, which gives us a smidge more equity. We get raised. I'm going to go ahead and call that just because the 4 is going to be good for me and a lot of diamonds will be as well. We'll check to him. We'll be folding the river for the most part here if he bets again. Get a 2.5x open from under the gun, the lower left-hand table, and one caller in position. This hand would be a call without the overcaller, but given the overcaller's in there, I start dumping out some of the more marginal hands that don't have as much robust draw potential. So I'm going to go ahead and fold hands like ace-10, king-jack, queen-jack. Upper right-hand table will raise against the limper. It's something like our under the gun raise first in range, about 18%, including ace-queen offsuit. Interesting spot here in that this rec player sizes up. I don't really know what to do in this spot against the 6x open. I mean, I'm probably playing it like a cold 4-bet or fold spot. I can tell you that much for sure. I think we'll go ahead and pop him up. Big blind jams over the top, and the razor instantly rejams. I'm going to get out of the way because it's got to be some big hands. 10s and 6s, so. Got that 9 on the turn. Go ahead and bet pretty close to pot to set ourselves up for another river jam that's going to be pretty close to pot. Lower right-hand table, we 3-bet the middle position opener from the button and get cold 4-bet. by the small blind. That's probably a fold. Let me think about that for a minute. Yeah, it's going to have to be a fold. Blind down blind, lower left-hand table, get that 3x open. We can 3-bet with our suited connectors like 5-4 suited just so we have some hands all across the board. Possible to have strong hands on almost every board. Upper right-hand table, the button or the big blind calls. We'll go ahead and range bet him small on the King Queen 6 two-tone flop. He check calls. Turn is an offsuit 5. We could have all kinds of 7-8 straight draws. We can have various Jack 10 type draws, lots of open-enders, and then lots of combo draws as well. I'm not going to bet all my gut shots because I'm going to be betting way too many draws if I do. I'm going to check back the ones without the spade, like ace 10. River's a pretty good card for us. The jack of spades gives us the nut non-flush, the nut possible straight. He bets into us for pot. Let's see if there's any merit in raising that. There's probably not. It should probably just be a call. We're against a small flush. 2.5x open from the button on the lower right-hand table. We're going to go ahead and 3-bet about a 14% range, including our king-queen suited. Upper left-hand table will raise ace-9 offsuit on the cutoff. And we're getting 3-bet all over the place all of a sudden. Our upper left-hand table will raise ace-10 suited first in from middle position. Get called by in-position player. Small blind comes along as well. Lower left-hand table will raise about a 14, 15, for about a 13% range, I guess, rather, on the button against the cutoff for the 2.5x open. We'll check range in the upper left-hand table to the in-position player. Upper left-hand table will raise under the gun about 18% range, including our pocket kings. Called in position. The last rec just jumped out of the seat at that table, so we'll be done after this one. We'll check range the in-position player on the ace-7-4 two-tone flop. Turn is a great card for us. The king, offsuit king, giving us second set. We'll go ahead and start jabbing at that pot small. We get raised. We're going to go ahead and put in a re-raise over that small raise. Against a larger raise, I might give him credit for trying to be betting the river again as well. These smaller raises are often just looking to get cheap showdowns. I'm going to go ahead and just repot him here over the top, put him to the test. And he quickly folds. Lower right-hand table, get a 2.5x open from the button. It's kind of on the cusp between 3-bet and call. I'm going to go ahead and call it, but you could 3-bet it as well. It's pretty close. And we'll check range to him on the ace-ace-9 two-tone flop. I will check call on that paired board with my sixes at least once. Continue checking. Against the second barrel, though, I think it's a pretty trivial fold. For right-hand table, we'll raise under the gun with about an 18% range, including our pocket kings. Lower right-hand table, blind down blind, will raise ace-8 suited first in, part of about a 45% raise first in range, or wider if you think he's passive or a poor player post-flop, or just too nitty pre-flop. Lower right-hand table, we'll raise the button first in with queen-4 suited. On the upper right-hand table, we have a short stack player calling. We get a squeeze, and then we get a cold 4-bet to 35 blinds by the big blind. There's really no decision here except all in or fold. I think I'm really only going to jam my kings and aces at this point. Kings is too strong to consider folding. Queens you can probably get away from given that squeeze and cold 4-bet action in the tight formation. Against the 3-bet on the lower right-hand table, just go ahead and fold the ace-queen, or the queen-4 suited rather. Short stack calls off. Squeezer folds. Cold 4-better calls off. He's got aces. I'm not terribly surprised about that result. Aces beats me, but the queen-10 that calls off actually scoops the main pot when it makes a shady 2-pair. We were cooler than some people, now they're cooler than us. That's the way the game goes. Yeah, but as him showing up with aces there tends to at least support my supposition is that that cold 4-bet in that formation is going to be very, very strong. Upper right-hand table will raise first in with king-queen on the button. Lower right-hand table, 3-bet in position, will fold the ace-8. Couple of limps and a small blind completion. We'll check in from the big blind with ace-5 suited. Get a very nice flop for ourselves. Ace-queen-deuce with the two-tone flopper. We have the nut flush draw. We'll check range to the limpers. Checks around. Turn is offsuit 3. We'll put in a backdoor flush draw up to the 3 of diamonds. We now have the gut shot to the wheel as well. We get let into for about 75% by the recreational player in the small blind. No reason to raise. We'll just go ahead and call that and reevaluate based on future action. He bets about half pot on the river against a recreational player using that size, and we have top pair. That's just a trivial call. You end up against ace three for a better ace. Ace is made into pair on us, but I think our play is very reasonable. Lower right-hand table, raise ace-5 suited first in on the button. Upper left-hand table, we'll complete the small blind with 8-7 suited with a couple of limpers out there. We'll go ahead and check range out of position on the 9-8-3 two-tone or rainbow flop. Lower right-hand table, we raise ace-jack from middle position. Get 3-bet, we'll be folding that. Upper right-hand table, we raise 10-6 suited from the button first in. Upper left-hand table, flop checks around, turn is the 9. We're going to go ahead and start jabbing at this multi-way pot small. We do have second pair. It's not too likely anybody has a 9 after everyone checked it back on the flop. You get called. We'll go ahead and check, give you some kind of weird straight draws, flush draws, overcards a chance to bluff. Lower left-hand table, blind on blind, we'll raise the queen 9. Upper right-hand table, we'll raise king 8 first in on the button. Lower left-hand table, we raise ace-6 first in on the button. Lower right-hand table, get a recreational player limps. We'll complete the small blind with queen 9. Check range to the in-position players on the queen jack 9 two-tone flop. Turn is that 10 of clubs. We're going to go ahead and jab at this small. We can actually be getting value from single club hands here, even though a flush is possible and there's a 4 straight out there. Got a limp and then a small isolation by a short stack. We can fold ace-3 suited in that spot. Our left-hand table, we'll raise our 5s under the gun. Upper right-hand table, we'll raise aces from the first in from the button. Lower left-hand table against the imposition 3-bet, we'll just go ahead and fold the 5s. Big blind calls us on the aces hand. We've got queen 10-5 rainbow flop. We'll go ahead and range bet small. He calls us. Turn is the jack. Let's see here. That makes a possible straight out there and all kinds of possible 2 pairs. However, in this spot, I do think I still want to be using the overbet or check type bet sizing convention. I'm not going to be betting too many 1-pair hands here, but given that I do have some removal to straights to ace-king, I think it's okay to overbet this one. This one's pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and put in the overbet, try to get called by something like king-queen, jack-9. I'm looking to really get a lot of value from pairs plus open-enders here and then evaluate my decision on the river. He calls. River is the king, so we now have the nuts. That's a pretty safe card for us. I mean, we're chopping against other aces, though he shouldn't have too much ace-x in his range. Got this 4 straight run out. I want to go ahead and use my pot size bet as my bluff. What bluffs can I have here? Really, I guess I can really only have in the way of bluffs some smaller flush draws. Not too many of them, really. So I'm going to check back a lot of smaller flush draws as opposed to overbetting the turn. Lower left-hand table will raise the button first in with 10-9 offsuit. Upper right-hand table will raise queen-jack first in on the cutoff. Lower left-hand table, both blinds call us. We get a queen, queen, 3 rainbow flop. I would be betting my queen X hands here for sure, and I guess some stuff that blocks queen X. 10-9, probably a little too weak to go ahead and bet. It's not too far off, but I think I want to check that one back. I want to be using hands like queen jack, jack 10, especially with backdoor flush draws as my flop bluffs to balance my queen X that's going to be betting. Turn the 10 of spades. We get bet into about 60% of pot. We'll go ahead and call with our pair of 10s. I'm a little suspicious that this guy is doing that too terribly lightly, but we'll evaluate based on what happens on the river. He checks. I'm content to check back my 10 at that point. We are against a king-high flush draw, and our hand is good. Lower right-hand table, blind on blind, will raise the queen 10 suited. Lower left-hand table will raise ace 5 suited from middle position. Upper right-hand table, the button raises 2.5x. We're going to go ahead and 3-bet him with about a 14% range, including our king-queen offsuit. And against this 3x re-raise from a reg, we're going to go ahead and defend fairly loose because this blind on blind spot. Suited broadways and even worse hands than that are going to be fine to go ahead and call with. And we'll check range on the queen 7-3. Upper right-hand table, we're going to squeeze with our king-queen against that button open and the half stack, short stack, or small blind cold call. Lower right-hand table, just go ahead and check call with our top pair and continue checking. Lower left-hand table, we're just going to go ahead and range bet small on the 10-7-7. Upper right-hand table, the rec player calls. We get a 5-3-3 flop, a little more than a pot-sized bet left behind. I'm just going to go ahead and move him in this spot. I think it's very hard for him to have paired up with that board. Turn, he keeps barreling. We've got top pair. We're going to call again. He has trip threes. In the blind on blind spot, he surrendered on the river, stopped barreling. He had king-6 offsuit, so he is doing that pretty loose. Well, that's the kind of hand I would be 3-betting there as well, so I don't think it's necessarily bad. He's just on the looser side for the player pool. We're going to go ahead and shut down our session here at the next round of blinds comes around to us. Lower right-hand table will raise the cutoff first in with pocket kings. Lower left-hand table, middle position, got a 21% raised first in range, including the king-10 suited. Upper right-hand table, middle position, will also raise the pocket fives. Lower left-hand table, we get the king-10-5 two-tone flop. We'll go ahead and put in our small range bet. We do have top two, so we're looking to shovel money in this pot on most runouts. Get a couple of limpers in the lower right-hand table. We'll go ahead and isolate something like a 21% range against two limpers from the button, including all of our suited aces. Both players come along and call. We get a king-queen-3 two-tone flop. We'll be checking back this particular combo if given the opportunity, which we're not, as we get let into for half pot, and we go ahead and quickly fold. Well, right-hand table will raise first in with the Queen-7 suited from middle position. And we get 3-bet by an aggressive regular, who then gets cold 4-bet by the small blind. I like his sizing there as well, using the small 4-bet, even though he's out of position with the action not closing. We've got a couple of on-cap ranges still left to act, the big blind, myself, and the 3-better for a matter of fact. Last hand, middle position, we raise first in with pocket 9s, part of a 21% range. And that's about it. We're going to shut our session down and take a break. Till next time, this is Charlie Murphy signing off, and thank you for choosing to watch my video.